And we are live. Hello, everybody. And you're muted.
I was paying attention. I'm good. It's all good.
There we go. So we're going to do a quick little hello, everybody. We're going to roll our intro here, and we'll bring our special guest on here momentarily. So grab yourself a cup of joe, get your tickets, movie tickets ready, get some popcorn, and we'll see y'all in a minute.
You are listening to Radio Cosmos. Time to join
Joe Cool and JJ Organics.
Lucky winner of the Gemini Croquette Contest. Coming at you live from Floston.
Joe Cool, who I see in many different live streams. Joe Cool is a cool dude to have on all the live streams. This dude is there.
Hello, and welcome to the show. And the curtain.
In the curtain. Welcome, everybody.
Now, I'm not about to do a Canadian accent, but that is the theme for tonight. Our special guest from Canada. So it's our own version of Canada Day, eh? I can't. I don't know what to do with it. Coffee, no coffee. It's just gonna. There it is.
There it is. All right. So first, we're going to roll on with Bexx.
That's what you were doing with your icon.
Yeah. Do you want me to show you?
That's awesome.
Sorry, I'm going to do one more flip here, and then I'll commit to that. There. Hi, friends. Hi, friends.
There you go.
Hey.
Hello, everybody.
It's been forever, 12 hours at least.
I know. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I saw you last.
So, Bexx,
I want to...
Yes. Do you have a geographic kind of location of where you're at in Canada for those who might not know?
I do. I am geographically as American as a Canadian can get. I'm on the southernmost tip of Vancouver Island, which is the westernmost. It's the southwest corner of the country. And it dips down into Washington State. The island that I'm in is surrounded by Washington State up and around, like a hookup around my island. So I look at America all day long. I'm very happy.
So what is your famous line that you're the...
I'm the proudest, I'm the most patriotic American that China ever made.
There it is. I love that line. Absolutely love it.
It's the truth,
Alrighty.
man. Being an American is a state of mind.
There you go. And next we have New West Reset, Frankie Fingers.
Hi everyone. How's it going? How you doing?
Good to have you on, Frankie. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. And geographically, where might you be?
I am in Alberta. Purdy, Alberta. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which is actually one province east from where Bexx is from. She's in British Columbia, technically, and I'm in Alberta. So she's on the western side of the Rocky Mountains, and I'm on the eastern side.
Oh, wow. So you got some tall terrain separating you there.
Yeah, they come up around 10, 12,000 feet-ish, give or take. Yeah, they're beautiful. Some of them are so tall they have snow on top all year round, as some may suspect, being that it's Canada. Although right now it's about 85 degrees Fahrenheit right now. So,
ooh, so it actually gets pretty warm. Now, most people, weather-wise, they would not think that Canada would be warm.
well, it gets hot. It gets hot. It gets to some parts of the country can get into the low to mid 40s Celsius, which is, around 110 Fahrenheit.
Ooh, wow.
Now, the further north you get, obviously, it's not going to get that hot, like up in the Northwest Territories and around the Arctic Circle, obviously not, and even up in the Yukon. Northern Quebec, stuff like that, no, forget about it. But it can still get to be 25 Celsius, which is about 80 Fahrenheit in the summer. But, the summer doesn't last long up in the north, right?
Yes, that was something even in Michigan where JJ more so born and raised. I was there for a duration, right? But yeah, it most of the time, about 6 to 8 months out of the year, it was cold. It was dark, gloomy skies and just cold. Probably, I want to say 60 degrees and below.
Well, there's parts of Canada that don't get snow at all year, like where Bexx is. She might get some rain, and maybe once in a fluke one-off thing, she'll get some really wet snow, but it doesn't stick. It just melts as it touches the ground. It's just not a thing, and then there's parts of Canada that are almost always under snow and ice, right? You get up into Baffin Island or some of the northern islands north of Nunavut, north of the Northwest Territories, the Arctic Circle, where them polar bears like to scamper around and stuff, and where our Inuit people are, with the seals and, the whales and whatnot, and all the harpooning and,
Oh, wow. So Canadummy says he's in Winnipeg.
Yeah, Winnipeg gets cold in the winter, but it gets hot and humid in the summer in Winnipeg. And their skeeters are like that big. Their mosquitoes are like dragonflies.
Really?
They're huge.
Wait, what?
Well, not quite. I mean, a guy's exaggerating for effect. Come on now. But they're big. They're big. They're like, it doesn't look like it came off of Kong Island or anything, but they're pretty big.
I'm like, that's more Florida when they're like gigantic, historical, prehistoric looking things, because there's no hibernation in Florida. Down the peninsula, Panhandle probably, but down here, like we're south of Tampa, we barely get a really cold where it would be a frost, where it's on this slight angle, but Tampa across the way, like anything south of that, it's not going to frost and freeze. And if it does, it's the end of the world, baby, because there's a lot of pissed off elderly people.
like Winnipeg, like Manitoba, generally speaking, is it gets pretty humid because you've got Hudson's Bay there, and then James Bay, and they have tons of huge lakes. Lake Winnipeg and Lake Manitoba are both massive lakes, and then there's tons of other lakes around there. So their summers are like warm and kind of muggy and kind of sticky. But then conversely, in the winter, they get a lot of snow because there's a lot of moisture in the air, and it's that wet, heavy snow. And then they get, the nor'easters blowing in because technically they're the prairies, so it's kind of flat. So the wind just whips through there and just smacks a guy right in the side of the head at like minus 40 Celsius, which I think is also minus 40 Fahrenheit, I think. So, yeah, get a grip on that.
Yeah, that's like a Michigan hello. Just smack you upside the
head.
Yeah. Hey, winter's here, and it's still August.
But, from coast to coast to coast, we have crazy weather here. It's just Canada is just so big that we're bound to have all kinds of stuff. We have deserts, we have high mountains, we have, forests, we have rainforest, we have swamps and the bayous. You name it, we got
it. That was something that was mentioned. I know we talked about it before, Frankie, is that, down in Florida, you're expected to see larger than normal animals, bugs, insects, because it's the tropics, right? They're just going to grow.
Yeah.
Everything gets bigger. So when down here we think of Canada, right? You don't think of certain animals and or insects surviving up there because, again, you just think cold, hibernation. You're like, how there's certain critters. You're like, how do they survive? What?
Yeah. Well, yeah. When you and I were talking about rattlesnakes and scorpions, and we have those in the Badlands here in Alberta, and they do hibernate and they can make it through the winter. It's crazy.
Wow. That is.
Well, and you should see the size of the bears where Bexx lives. You want to see some huge silver tip Kodiak grizzly bears. Man, oh man.
Not without really thick plexiglass.
Although technically, if you see me looking down, I'm just chatting with the chat here. Technically not on the island here so much. We don't have nearly as many of the animals on the island as the mainland does. I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm sure we have bears.
Little islands that are in and around. What are those little islands called? I always forget.
Which one's the San Juan Islands between here and the States? Or yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are gigantic bears on the island somewhere, right? Like like bigger than what you'd see elsewhere. But I just know that we don't have quite the same animal makeup because of the island.
Yes,
being what it is. I would say though,
there's an old Grizzly Island out there somewhere. I think
there might be. There might be. Yeah. I know.
Good, believe it or not.
Yeah. There's a lot of animals actually that do move through. That's exactly how they would get to the Big Island is, swimming, using those San Juan Islands as skip hops, as sort of stepping stones to the island. But it would still be really far. They'd be coming in from Washington, not from British Columbia.
Right.
The strait gets closer. Too big up there. I'd like to say in sort of the vein of alternate information that we tend to do in this community, it would be interesting for people to look at old maps. When you're looking at old maps and you see California represented as an island, it would be interesting for people to maybe look at the shape of Vancouver Island, because I think there's some link there. Like I live right across from Port Angeles. It's not Los Angeles, but it's Port Angeles.
Yeah.
And it's just there's a history of the west coast of Canada that got absorbed into the eastern coast history that the First Nations people here were literally just having their towns cleared like right into the 80s. You know, that's my, I postulate that, right? That there's histories, there's towns here with mills shut down, full on sawmills. They claim operated for whatever, 10 years, you know. I got a t-shirt from a place on the island that says Tassis Logger Sports. And it's a tiny town that they say some mill shut down and the bank bought out and whatever. But anyways, my point is they, this t-shirt has all these signatures on it. I can't find anyone but the couple that still allegedly lives there. You know, so it's just, there's a real history that the further west you move on this, well, I mean, it's all hidden, but the further west you move on this continent, the more recent, what we've been told happened 50, 70, 100 years ago, the more recent it kind of comes up. So, yeah, hailing from ye old California island is what I'm trying to say in a million words.
I've always kind of speculated that myself when looking at the old maps, when you see, because, you know, it's hypothesized that California itself, the Baja Peninsula of California itself, was once connected. And then others have said that, you know, well, no, maybe it was an island. So if it was connected, they may be looking at Vancouver Island and mistaking it for California that used to be an island. And also, I just spoke recently about, if you look at old world maps of Western Canada, it's all blank. It just says parts unknown, or here be giants.
Spanish territory.
Even before the Spanish territory, it just the map just goes blank to a point. You see the coast, the west coastline come up, and then it just stops. And then you see some of the northern islands and stuff, and then it just stops. But the west coast of the U.S. is there, so it's like they got to the Rocky Mountains by their narrative and maybe went, holy shit, how does a guy cross that? So, you know, they had to figure out a way, and then the maps developed after that. But I think there was lots of stuff in the West that just hadn't been founded, in other words, rediscovered yet.
Interestingly, too, the shape of Alberta and the shape of BC and the shape of Alberta on these newer maps, which seem quite different from the maps I grew up with, even, you know, that Panhandle used to be part of whatever other country it's not. My point is if you look at the shape of California and the shape of the state beside it, they're the same shape almost as BC and Alberta now. It's strange.
Yeah. I think they may have done that when they separated Northwest Territories and added Nunavut. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about here and have no freaking idea, just east of Alaska, for most people would be very familiar. Just east of that is our westernmost territory called the Yukon. It's basically like Alaska. And then east of that used to be a giant area known as the Northwest Territories. And they've now split the Northwest Territories, and the easternmost portion of that now is called Nunavut. Yeah, okay, this old world map. Yeah, you can see it just stops. It's just blank. But there, that could be Vancouver Island.
Yeah, that's Vancouver. That looks like Vancouver Island, almost the exact same shape. And if we go in and see if it says Nootka in there or anything like that, like, it'd be interesting. See how far I can zoom in. That looks just like the Nootka Sound, where the biggest sort of island is, those three islands. Tassis would be in by the O on California, likely. Oh, great map.
So yeah, I think what happened was they every time they add something, gain territory, like Canada isn't really an expansionist type of country. We've got the land that we have, and sometimes we just split it up every once in a while, right? The only new acquisition is like what Canadummy said in the chat, Newfoundland joining Confederation after World War II. But then they split that northern region, and they split it from Northwest Territories, and now it's Northwest Territories, and Nunavut is a new territory. So maybe when they did that, they changed some of the maps. They changed the borders around for everybody. They changed the Alberta-BC border, maybe the Alberta-Saskatchewan border. Who knows what they mess around with.
Do you guys know how they came up with the name for Canada? They put all the consonants of the alphabet in a hat, and then they started pulling them out one by one, and they were like C-A-N-A-D-A.
Yeah, that's Canadian bingo. And they ask people ask why just the consonants and no vowels in there, and it's well because they just had breakfast and they'd had maple syrup with their pancakes, and when they were cutting up the pieces of paper that had the vowels on them, it stuck to their fingers.
Yeah, and also because old McDonald's farm was using them for their song at the time.
Oh, the E-I-E-I-O's, yes.
Except for the A.
Oh, that's
A, because we need, because A.
Well,
that's
for
some
sure
good
there,
jokes
eh?
right there.
I know.
That's some good jokes.
But I didn't write that one. You guys would all laugh harder. That's I promise I didn't write that one. Okay.
Like all the jokes in the U.S. are usually about being trailer park trash. So.
Oh my gosh, I love Americans so much, you guys. I just hate it when people bash them and you guys bash. Anyways, it's okay. I understand there's trailer parks. We have them here too.
Oh yeah, we have trailer parks here too. In fact, I would say that the Bob and Doug McKenzie characters that a lot of Americans are familiar with from, let's say, the 80s and early 90s are what you would find in very strictly there. That would be like the hick Canadian up in like Northern Ontario, the way they speak and how they act. That's you're not going to find, folks like that walking around in Toronto or in Vancouver or in Montreal. Well, maybe the odd one. I mean, I went to high school with guys like that, but there's some stuff that is true. Like, we're really polite, eh? Oh, we're so nice up here, bud.
You are, matey. That's the best Canadian I can do.
If you guys aren't allowed to, guys, that's what I wanted to say was Bob and Doug McKenzie set the way for Trailer Park Boys. That's Canadian content, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys know, did you ever hear of the Trailer Park Boys in the United States, or is that just our best sitcom ever, never known? You guys do?
It's pretty big, that one, I think.
Hey,
yeah, do you know did you know that the pilot has anyone ever seen the pilot episode of the Trailer Park Boys?
I haven't.
I highly recommend it, right? They're very unsuccessful hitmen for pets.
Pet hitmen?
Yeah, they really are. They're just for one episode. Don't worry, they're very unsuccessful.
Let me guess. It's for people that can't afford to take their pets to the vet to have them put down. So they just hire these guys for like $20. They'll delete your pet for you, kind of a deal. They do it for beer money, I guess, maybe. Beer and smokes.
Exactly.
Jeez. Told you. And I didn't even see it. Told you I went to high school with guys like that. What about the Letterkenny show? That's another great Canadian show about a bunch of idiotic Canadian hicks. It's called Letterkenny. All one word. They live in a fictitious town called Letterkenny, and I think it's supposed to be in, I don't know, Manitoba or Saskatchewan or some crazy made-up place. And it's hilarious. Oh, my ride's here.
Yeah, I can hear it.
I was going to mute it, but then I thought it's coming.
It's coming. Alrighty, well, let's hop into some vintage films, right? Because that's what we're here for. Now, most of these films are silent films, so you can basically do a voiceover and just see what you see, and let us, American folks know what you know, perhaps.
Not much, I'll tell you right now.
Right.
The butter's spread pretty thin on the bread. Let's just put it that way.
I think. All right. Well, let's start off with a little shorter one, and let's go.
From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Oh, so you know it's true. By the way, in the chat, yes, Wayne Gretzky is still alive, the greatest hockey player that ever lived. And I'm not even an Oilers fan. But I can still swallow my
Detroit,
pride.
baby. Sorry.
What's this?
Boxing.
Oh,
wow. Ooh, what do we got going on here?
This is in Ocean View, California.
It said Canada on it. I clicked it. It said Canada. I was like, oh, this would be fun for the men. Maybe some of them. It's old school, vintage.
Maybe there's a place called Ocean View in Canada. I don't know.
Less safety features.
Could be.
It said it was from the 1920s. That's why it's silent film.
Boy,
Or maybe one of the boxers is Canadian. Can you tell?
That could be. That could be. No, you can't tell. It's not like South Park.
Did we even have that many Canadians in 1920?
There's about 16 of us up here chopping wood and fishing, eh? Oh,
Yep.
and tapping the maple trees for the maple syrup because you got to get that going. Oh, and get the beaver pelts too, of course. These guys look like they're pretty small compared to the ref. I want to see somebody fight the ref. Oh, train going by. I better mute.
Thank good their pants are slightly different, or we wouldn't be able to tell them apart.
Well, one guy's got a hairline like mine, and the other guy's got a hairline like Tony Curtis or Elvis or somebody with nice hair. Matthew
The one guy's
McConaughey,
wearing Daisy Dukes because his booty bottoms are hanging out.
You're supposed to be looking at the sweet science of boxing, JJ, not looking at the guy's tuchus. That's sexist.
The whole anatomy is important. He works his glutes. They stick out.
Look how big the ref is compared to these guys.
Oh,
He
he's
might
on
be a-
Queer Street.
do you think he's a small giant? Look how big that ref is.
I know.
That's
what
like
I said.
Andre
I
the
wanna
Giant.
see somebody fight the ref.
Exactly. Actor-based
Stay down,
reality
buddy.
here.
Stay down. Come on now. It's Betty Bye time. Stay down. This guy's going to clean your clock again.
What?
There
What?
you go. That's it.
Didn't it look like he sped up the count? He was like 1, 2, 3, 4.
This guy's not getting up. 1, 3, 9, 10, you're
That's a
out.
film. But sorry,
The-
Canada. I guess you lost because somebody waved the American flag.
Yeah, I was just going to say the old Stars and Stripes, Old Glory's waving in the background there. So must have been the American that won. America.
America.
Of course it was. What kind of music is it that they play out east? Like, you know, the Irish or that Scottish, you know, the Gaelic kind of thing in the very far east in those maritime provinces. We don't even know what their names are because they're so far off. They may as well be like whatever Northern European is, Scandinavia, you know?
Oh, the kind of music where it's like
Yeah, that's how we count up here. Yep. Yeah, it must have been,
It's like
and
an
it gets
Irish
faster
gig
and
or something.
faster and faster. That's how they count up here. Must have been. It must have been like Nova Scotia.
One of those.
The Appalachian banjo music. Kind of.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and it gets faster and faster and faster. You have to dance faster and faster and faster. That's how we count up here.
Oh, jeez.
Peppy bluegrass is the only thing I can think
So,
of.
so Paul Johnston says, "I'm a real Canadian, eh?" So I'm curious.
phony one.
Okay, so geographically, where might you be? You can, you don't have to say your, exact city or anything, but
The first thing
Yeah.
that came into my head was his maple
wanna
leaves
know.
are bigger. His maple leaves are bigger. He's a real Canadian.
Kim Ray, Bexx is Canadian, as this is the Canadian show.
Yeah, Bexx is Canadian. She's in medicine.
Barely.
Barely.
Sorry, Kimray. Kimray's in medicine. Bexx is in on Vancouver Island. Did you say you're in near Victoria?
I'm in
That's-
Victoria.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
beautiful
I can
city,
walk
by
out
the way.
here and go down to the harbor like 5 minutes and take a picture of the Capitol building. You know, like it's it's very beautiful, very old,
Yes.
old Tartarian town where they don't like us to think that there isn't underground trains from their penthouses down to their like golden. Anyway, zipping it, looking at films.
Yes, looking at films.
Whatever.
But yeah,
It's a film review.
Kim Ray in the
It's-
chat is in
Whatever triggers Bexx, you can talk.
I know. I'm
There's
just like,
medicine hat. Yeah,
film
so-
related Canada
thank you.
related. You
So Kim Ray's near Frankie and Bernie.
Well, sort of.
Sort of.
It's about an hour and a half drive. Alberta's
It's-
big,
it's
man.
not-
Alberta's the size of Texas, by the way.
That
Alberta
it's
and
not
Texas
Windsor,
are basically
right?
the same size. So
It's not Windsor. It's like Windsor, Detroit. It's
yeah, those are
near
close.
you guys.
Yeah.
Because that's how I even, being a Michigander, born and raised, split Canada into Quebec and Windsor, the east side, the west side of Canada is like often forgotten because they don't emphasize and talk about it. Even in the films, you'll see like that side of Canada is just a myth. You guys live in mythology land of Canada. So they like don't talk about it.
Well, by the narrative, it's the youngest part of the country, right? As the push westward, same as the American narrative. The youngest part of the country is, Oregon, Washington.
But they downplay
Idaho.
talking about that side of Canada like there's nothing there.
One thing
that's fine by us. We don't want too many people out here chopping down all our trees and disturbing the deer and the moose and the beavers and stuff. Leave us alone out here, eh? Go back to Toronto or whatever.
Toronto.
Leave us Westerners out here to enjoy our trees and our birds. Take off.
Brother Bear. The moose is from Brother Bear. That would be great.
I'm just joking, by the way. Canada is a great country. I'm originally from the East. I'm originally from Quebec. So I make fun of Easterners, but I'm an Easterner. So I also make fun of Westerners because I'm a Westerner.
Yeah, I could hear that in how he said Toronto. Only people from Toronto say Toronto. We call it Toronto out here.
Yeah, I call the band Toronto, but the city I call it Toronto. But there's a Canadian band called Toronto.
Just to give everybody am I muted?
No, you're good. So
just to give everybody a better refresh of Canada, even though it's Google Maps. Babe, if you're talking, you're muted.
Yeah, that's comment in the chat was hilarious. Sorry. You just assume the western half of America is still, or Canada's a big iceberg. Yeah, to drive into Western Canada, you could drive your car up these big wooden planks, and it's to climb up the half a mile high ice wall. See, it's right there on the map. There it is. You see all the ice? There you go. It's just the tops of the Rocky Mountains. Come on now.
Where I'm from in the interior of British Columbia, where you can see sort of that darker area come up, that's all desert, right? So in Kelowna, where I'm from, like it's 40, 45, 42 degrees in the heat of the summer on the mainland there.
Fahrenheit or Celsius.
No, Celsius. Yeah. It gets really hot there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there, Victoria.
Yeah, it's about that's close to 110 Fahrenheit. It gets really hot. That's the high desert where she's from.
Yeah. Now zoom out a little and show them how American I am geographically, just so I can be look at where the lines are. See where the lines are? Just draw a line straight across. Boom. I'm in.
Well, that whole section was the Americans and the British fought over that lots of times supposedly during the War of 1812.
Drew Duncan is a neighbor.
During the Spanish-American War.
Oh, yeah, Drew's over there.
He's in the island across from it, Bexx.
There's star forts in Washington State that are named after Canadian generals that were actually British generals, but from Canada.
Yeah, Fort Vancouver.
British naval officers and stuff like that. But they're in now in Washington State. It's weird because it used to be part of Canada.
Yeah, well, my grandfather was running cattle up and down the coast, like through the mountains there, that they could just run their cattle. They still do actually run cattle across the border. The land lots of people own land that crosses the border there, right? So, right up until I was born, really, like just before I was born is really when we adopted, actually even in the 70s, that we were still using, I was taught to like grade 3 from textbooks that all taught the not the metric system. We had to do the conversions.
Oh, the
right.
imperial
So I
system.
learned. Yeah, imperial. Yeah, I didn't even know what it's called, but I know how to use it.
What?
The standard imperial measurements: inches, feet, miles.
Yeah.
Feet,
we don't use those here.
Yards. Yeah.
That's imperial.
I think it's known
I
as
thought
imperial.
that was just America.
Well, no, yeah, but I used it into the 70s. That's why I'm saying these territories, like, they were still determining what they're doing. Like, they just, I'm just saying this West Coast stuff comes really current, like probably into the 80s.
Yeah, no, a lot of other countries used to use the old system, JJ, but now you guys are the only ones that have dug your heels in and are hanging onto it like grim death for some reason, while the rest of the damn realm uses metric system. But you guys, no, America. Come on now.
90% of the realm uses what metric. You guys use?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
see, that's why you guys think Canada. That's why you guys think Canada is so cold, because we say, oh, it's hot today. It was 24 degrees. We mean Celsius. You got to convert that to Fahrenheit, which is roughly 80-ish Fahrenheit.
It's like
but you're thinking that it's 25 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're thinking those clowns up there think that's hot? What the hell's wrong with them?
Yeah. They're like, hey, no wonder why they're like, hey, it's warm.
That's why we have deserts and sandy beaches, and we have rainforests. Where Bexx are, there's rainforests, and on the mainland, there's rainforests. The sequoias and stuff.
You're muted.
I don't want to.
From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
You know, it is what it is.
This is a 2-minute clip here.
We're dumb about Americans too. We don't know shit about Americans up here. Only what we know from watching cable television in the 80s.
This Frankie is the old firehouse.
Yeah, this is the fire department in the winter.
Oh, I thought it was a picture of you visiting your relatives last winter.
This is footage I took on my last family reunion, eh? This was just 3 years ago. Take off. No, seriously, I remember my great-grandfather used to have a wagon for the farm, like literally a hay wagon for the farm, and it was pulled by 2 horses. And he could take the wheels off and flip the springs around, and he would put skis on the bottom. And in the winter, he could still haul hay or just do other stuff around the farm.
Was that the boiler to keep the water from freezing?
Yeah.
I guess that would make sense if it's that cold. You got to have a hot boiler. Here comes another one, it looks like.
Look at that steam. Look at that.
Well, they also the other thing to remember is to create water pressure, enough pressure to put out the fires. They had steam pumps that would pump the water out of those fire engines. So those ones that you see with smoke and steam coming out of them, those are to operate the steam pumps to build up the pressure in the hoses to put the fire out. Now, in larger cities or in the downtown, you had fire hydrants.
There's
so they could just hook up to the fire hydrants.
Bernie said, just got cell service. Still driving through the mountains for a couple hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's not going to make it. The mountains? Where the heck is he if he's in the mountains? Must be coming back from BC, maybe. I thought he was still in Alberta. Yeah, I love those old videos with the old sleigh or horse-drawn carriages or sleighs or buggies, or I even dig those like 2-wheel buggies where you just have the guy sitting on the outside and the buggy's just on 2 wheels instead of 4. You seen those? They're kind of neat.
Oh, I don't think I have quite yet. Oh, you know what? This one, Frankie, is a train one. Now, I don't think you get to see the train, but it's only a minute.
Oh, yeah, this is going through the Rockies. So this is probably, if you were leaving my place, going to visit Bexx on the train 120 years ago, this is what it would look like.
Yeah, we have trestles like that. They've made parks of them now.
Ooh, Frankie, there's a question for you.
How do they stop a sled attached to a horse? Well, they just pull back on the reins, and then the horses resist. You know, they slow down. because don't forget the horses have horseshoes. That digs down into the snow pretty good.
Stevie J was asking before how they stopped a sled attached. How they stopped a sled attached to a horse. I was just gonna tell him if he went back and watched, you'd see they had some sort of like it was almost like the sleigh had some sort of bulldozer, whatever they call those bulldozer style things on the bottom. So there must have been some way they could stop it, don't you think? I guess with the arm. They'd be spiked. Yeah, they'd be spiked, and they'd have an handbrake.
Well, yeah, all carriages and buggies had a handbrake.
There you go.
Like
Frankie.
even the old covered wagons that you see in the Wild West movies, they had a handbrake on them too, actually.
I never even thought about that, or the thing would fly into the butts of the horses anyway, right?
Well, no, because they have it depends on what kind of tackle and harness that's being used. Because some of them, they actually have a sort of, they have to back the first horse on the lead, what would be the last horse, but the first one that goes in, they have to back it in between those two lateral arms, and then the harness goes over. So, but they'd still get a lot of pushback though if they're boogieing along. So yeah, they would have to have used the handbrake. I don't know how that would work with skis, but I know that with wagon wheels and carriage wheels, there was a handbrake. Skis, it might be kind of might fall off.
Who knows
break your neck? I don't know. It's probably a lot of broken necks in Canada in the winter from guys pulling on handbrakes on their ski carts. I don't know. It's a great question.
Who knows what a Youper is?
What is?
Youper.
Youper?
Somebody from Upper Michigan? I don't know.
The Upper Peninsula, we kind of talked about it before with Frankie, but the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is more like Canada than Michigan, but because it's like its own state of country. We have the Youpers. And was there another name for them? I can't remember. They talk more like Canadians, accent, nicknames, slang, you name it.
Youper light.
To me, people from Wisconsin sound like they're Canadian a little bit. Wisconsin. They even say "eh." They don't say "huh." I've talked about this before, where Americans will say, "Oh, it was hot out today, huh?" And Canadians would say, "It was hot out today, eh?" But I think
Michiganders definitely say, "Yeah, uh-huh."
Yeah, it seems
not a, huh?
I don't know if you're from like Wisconsin or Minnesota. It seems kind of Canadian to me. Vermont.
Well, I got a longer film, so we're going to just let it roll.
Yeah, our border is goofy. Canada dummy. You're right. Our border is goofy if you look at it. Kind of zigzags all over the place.
Banff Springs Hotel or... Ooh, that's what... Wow. Look at how good the grass... Anyways, I'm zipping it.
Looks better than NASA.
At least they're showing us the truth here.
Even in the bottle.
Oh, 1931. Oh, I'll have to mute. There's a train going by. Sorry.
No, that's all good. It adds to the sound effects.
Oh, okay.
You know, you could have you could have let us know. Next time we'll train the time film. We'll train the time film with we'll play the train film. Holy, that was a brain glitch. The train film with the train going. I know that was really weird, eh?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all get stuck once in a while. It's because we have so much booze in our beer up here, eh?
That one's out there forever, man. What can you do?
See, even the Niagara Falls look different back then than they do now.
Well, did you ever see they turned them off?
Yeah, because they have to do some maintenance. And what
know.
maintenance do you do on natural falls? Come on.
I know. How can you even turn them off?
Yeah.
And then they said they found bones
You
and
just need like those 6 guys again, and they just crank the big giant nozzle shut. Just turn the faucet righty tighty, lefty loosey.
there's a lot of work to do up here, you guys. There's not many of us, and we gotta tap all the trees. We gotta like bail out Niagara Falls.
Oh, please, Lord, don't let somebody go by in a barrel.
In a barrel.
So this is the American side. America. Look at that. It is a beauty, though. I mean, whatever goofing around they did, it is lovely, though. I was lucky to be there once when I was a kid. I was 8.
Me too. I was there once too. I was also around 8.
Noisy as hell, though. Like everybody you talk to, you got to yell at them. And then you get used to yelling, and then you go into a restaurant to get lunch, and you're yelling at everybody in there. Hello! But it's still, because we're Canadians, it's polite. Hello, how are you?
Falls close for maintenance. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, there's pictures of it. I think there's even an old newsreel of it.
Oh, look at how they have to. I believe them so much.
Yeah. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah.
If you hadn't have told me, then I wouldn't have thought anything otherwise. But because you had to emphasize that they're solid rock, now I wonder.
Yeah, all natural. All natural.
Yeah, all natural, even though they look like blocks.
100% beef.
So this comment from the Michigander, Flatlanders suck. Michiganders would say when you're up around Houghton Lake, Gaylord, anywhere northern Michigan, yep, that's yes. Flatlanders suck. I agree.
Yeah. And if I didn't know him personally, I suddenly was just about to be like, is that a new term for flat earthers? Like,
Flatlanders.
Like what are you? I was about to pick on a Glober out there, you guys. Sorry to the Glober. Sorry to the Glober.
Bexx, have you heard of Luna Island on Niagara River? I've never heard of it.
No.
I wonder if they had a Luna. And I'm not trying to be a wise guy here, but I wonder if they had a Luna Park on Luna Island. Because Canada had a couple of Luna Parks. Obviously, Niagara Falls being a big fancy schmancy tourist destination for both Americans and Canadians, as well as people from everywhere. But
2 Luna Parks, eh? See, when places have stuff like that, and we get hold of this realm again, you guys, and we can use the underground tunnel system that's like totally ours. Steampunk trains, Anyways, yeah, you could go probably from one Luna Park to another Luna Park, and that's why they got the same name.
Who knows? Mm-hmm. Hey, Joe, did you see down there? Are you able to pause this and just go back? Can I be a jackass?
Yeah, no problem.
Just back maybe about 10 or 15 seconds. And the camera, right there. The camera is panning past, and look at all those lower levels underneath the rock. And then there's, I think houses above that, built above that, or maybe different parts of stuff. But all underneath all those big
you're right.
arches and columns. Now they'll say, this is part of the old spillway or something, but I don't know. It looks very, because I know somebody in the chat said that Niagara Falls is an old ancient structure. So that may lend credence to the fact that maybe some parts of what we see as the big stone edifice of Niagara Falls used to be a structure, and this is part of it. Look at all that. Big, huge arches and big columns. Looks like a balustrade or something. Looks crazy.
That's a nice spillway.
That's right, Edna Bell. Edna in the chat saying it was a #1 spot to honeymoon at. Yeah, it was big. I mean, there's like Frank Sinatra, I think, used to perform there. Like the Rat Pack used to perform at Niagara Falls, and yeah, it was like a swinging spot. You know, it was like the old, you know, Atlantic City and the old, like all those old, you know, old Vegas, old timey Vegas, like in the 40s and 50s. You know, jet setters and honeymooners, and people would come to Niagara Falls. There was like highfalutin restaurants, and I think there was casinos and fancy hotels and all kinds of. But now it's just kind of, you want to get a T-shirt? Okay.
Have you guys seen that film recently where it looks like it looks like someone's on a boat and they're going out from one region to another, and the water goes from being sort of like rippling and looking like it changes into almost plasma, and then they're out into that what really still calm waters?
No, I haven't.
Has anyone seen that recent film going around?
No.
No, I have not.
Well,
that sounds interesting.
It's really interesting. It's way less violent than this. Like, not violent, but in terms of yeah, it's funny.
Rapid waters.
Yeah, rapid. But the when I saw that film, if anyone sees it, I think the trick of the eye is that there's some sort of like wall underneath the ocean that comes up a little bit and allows the current to sort of trickle over so that it gets slower out there, you know, like someone would control their own motion pool somehow or something, you know?
There
like
could
sort
be
of how they build breakers, tide breakers to help to
Yeah.
reset to sort of reduce the force.
Yeah, and it's almost like
the ocean along the beach, some of the beaches we go to along the golf course, if there's a sandbar, because it acts like a buffer, the one side out in the ocean is waves, and it's more forceful, and then it flows over and calms down.
Did you see, if you go back 10 or 15 seconds again, did you see the angle of that wall? The alleged natural stone embankment or whatever? I know they didn't say natural. Look at that.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing all the big blocks in the foreground too. And on the other side, just scattered all over the other side, big, huge, what look like rectangular blocks or stones.
And I'll bet you if you colorized this video, you could take some of these views into pictures from the 80s from a similar angle, and you'd find they hadn't changed at all. That same walkway was there. That same carport was there.
So Frankie, do you know what the comment is on the screen there?
Check old Pinawa Dam. No, I've never heard of Pinawa Dam, but it sounds like it's in Ontario.
Yeah, I think almost all dams are old world. But I would imagine some of the dams that are over here are even older. Like, well, if they're not, yeah. We just have so much less trade here. No, they could get away with not telling us about them. So much less population over here on these lands, you know?
That's
I looked
right.
up Pinawa Dam. Very interesting.
I mean, pre-1800, everything west of basically what's now Manitoba, maybe a bit of spillover into Saskatchewan, but, you know, everything basically west of Manitoba was just wild, the wild frontier, you know, pioneer land.
What the heck what is going on here?
They called it a Spanish railway. It's just
cross cables.
Yeah. Strange that they called it a Spanish railway. That is fancy tech.
That looks pretty cool.
Oh, it says the Pinawa Dam is in Manitoba.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to leave it up on my Google search, and then when we're done with the video, we'll look at it. It's really cool looking.
Look at the walls of that place. There's room for way more water. I say, I don't want to disappoint. Actually, I do. I totally want to disappoint Greta Thunberg with where I was going to go with that. Bring on the great thaw, you know?
They were just being extra prepared, right? They could afford it back then.
Yeah, there's nothing better a guy likes than being scolded by a 16-year-old teenager. Shut up, kid. They do that so that if you try to naysay whatever her talking points are, they can just point the finger at you and call you a kid hater. Hey, this guy hates kids.
Oh, wow. They're just trying to guilt trip you.
Look at
Just
this.
use the commercial from what, the 70s, where they're driving down the freeway and they're throwing trash out their window, and it hits the Native Americans' feet, and it's like the chief
And he gets
and
the
starts
single
to
tier.
cry.
Yeah. We used to get those up here too.
Do you know where this is?
Yeah, this is Niagara Falls. It's the Canadian side. They call it Horseshoe Falls because it's shaped like a horseshoe, but the entire falls themselves are Niagara Falls.
We have a Niagara Falls on Vancouver Island as well.
Really?
Yep.
Jeez, the way to
Yeah,
create
it's not
the
quite
name.
as big, and it's not quite as big, and it's not near a city. But it is very big falls. I'm going to look it up right now, and I feel like that's almost like a Mandela effect, like when there didn't used to be.
I will freely admit that the power of all of that water spilling over that ledge and hitting the rocks below it roars, like you feel it in every part of your body when you're there.
Yeah.
And of course,
And
you
you
get
can go-
soaking wet from the mist too. It doesn't matter what viewing platform you're on. The wind just changes directions a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're just totally soaked.
You can go behind them too. I went behind them. Not the whole thing, but there's an area you can go behind.
Yeah, there's a little,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought there was.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about that too, but they don't really talk about it too much. Like they're not allowing it anymore, or
And I would say the best way to describe it would be like if you were inside a SeaWorld, right? If you were inside a SeaWorld and you had that concrete wall beside you and you were looking out at a glass tank, but there was I don't think there was any glass there. It was just far enough on the fringe that you could get the sense, or it was far enough back that you could get the sense of being behind it and not,
Right.
but you were getting covered in mist. I don't remember there being glass there at all.
the backside of water is one of the most mysterious experiences you could ever experience. Backside of water.
That's a big thing too. The tourists will get on those boats and they'll
Yeah.
cruise right. Like the Lady of the Mist, I think, is the name of one of these ferries.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I never went, but I heard so many stories about it. And I want to say my dad or my parents went when they were maybe just married. Because like you said, it was a honeymoon vacation spot, or very popular area to go to is, I guess, romantic. I don't really think a waterfall in the cold is romantic, but, sunny beaches for me. But
Yeah, but
Niagara Falls,
if you go Niagara Falls in the summertime, though, it's going to be like in the high 80s, low 90s, maybe even hotter.
but of course, Joe Cool thought a second honeymoon at Black Lake with the Shining theme was very romantic. We were in Ottawa, Michigan, more in the
Okay.
woods than being in the woods. Black Lake, so romantic. Ready?
Look at this couple
What do
there.
you-
Aren't they lovely with their rain jackets on?
I did find Niagara Falls in Victoria on Google.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes from my house, 25 minutes from my house. There's way bigger. We do have really big sort of horseshoe falls on the island, though. Not big like that, but you have to hike into them, I think. Yeah, that Niagara Falls.
They're all horseshoe shaped.
I don't know if it's, I just assume that, I know we've
Just
got
allow-
something. I'm going to try and, I'll Google what the largest
I'm just thinking
waterfalls
like
on the island.
horseshoe shaped isn't really a natural. Is it a natural, or do they man-made it to horseshoe?
No,
Horseshoe.
it can occur naturally as it erodes because
Most waterfalls that I've ever seen.
there's the river technically moves a bit faster in the center of the
No.
river because
Right.
the water on either side, you have friction from the land, the river
I just
bed.
noticed, like, I don't like study waterfalls to say
Mhm.
all the waterfalls I've ever seen. Niagara Falls is the only one that I've never heard it before described as horseshoe shape.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
not
so-
all are, but it can happen naturally.
I guess it's just the widest waterfall so that it would be, I guess, horseshoe shaped. Most of them, I guess, are more narrow, thin,
I-
downside of the mountain.
I stand corrected. The other falls are not horseshoe falls. Yeah, the other falls, none of the falls I see here are actually horseshoe shaped. Like the Della Falls that I thought was the big one, but I'm working on a really old tablet when I'm talking on my phone with you guys, so I can't Google things as well as I'd like to. I know we have a very large waterfall up Northern Island, more on Northern Island, but we only cover the bottom third of this island, right? So what exists beyond is still sort of buried, you know?
Yeah. That was an interesting structure there on the shoreline, Joe. If you go back about 15, yeah, right there.
Oop.
Oh,
I almost had it.
Oh, sorry, JJ. Yeah, that thing.
There
right
we go.
there.
We can both do it, but luckily
Looks
enough,
like a-
he pushes play, but then I can help pause it. Yeah, I was
looks
kind of
like a-
looking at that, and sometimes it's like there's
looks
one
sort of
interesting,
fortress looking, but then there's a wall underneath,
Like
like it's built on a wall or on a.
hydro dam powerhouse with the built on the water, like that wall, like you're saying, and then what they would
Just what
tell
it-
us it was probably called.
Yeah, but just what it would take to build that platform, let alone
Yeah.
the building itself.
The seawall. Is that what you guys call it, seawall?
Yeah.
The universal term.
Yep, because they have them in BC and out on the East Coast, and they're called seawalls.
You guys
Yeah, I
usually
don't
have funner names for things, so I didn't know if you had something better than seawall.
Oh no,
I
that's
can't remember.
Australians. Australians have the best names for stuff. Oh, that's a jigawahoots. Oh, sure, okay, whatever. Don't you know that, Mike? Come on now, you're weird if you didn't know that one there, mate. It's a rigamaroo. Okay, whatever.
Hotel Royal York at Toronto.
No, it's Tirana.
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 That's right. The Royal York.
I have a hotel that looks just like that here, like exactly like that. Looks just like the Empress.
Because Toronto used to be called York. Oh, this is the CNE in Toronto as well.
Look at how grand and detailed I'm just gonna call it like an archway. It's a gate entrance. It's even in black and white, the old vintage film. You can just see how grand it looks.
Yeah.
Today they'll give you a paper banner that falls apart as soon as a snowflake touches it.
I clipped this same video and put it to music on my channel too. There's some awesome old buildings at the old CNE. Some of them are still there. A lot of them are gone. There's a lot of like dome buildings. Look in the back, you see like onion domes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's basically would have been like a World's Fair, but this is an annual thing. But this would have been like the World Fair cities that you see in the U.S., right? Chicago and St. Louis. This is Canada's version of that.
But you did
Look at how they're taking the time to show us the crests up there, right? That's what they were doing. They took a lot of time in this. I mean, film is always, everything's important. Every soundbite, every clip, So I wouldn't see. Look at the train. Is that the shape of the train, or am I just imagining things?
Yeah, no, that's building behind it.
Yeah, because if I'm seeing things and putting my words out of order, should we do some sort of medical test on me, or should I just put the weed down for a while?
No, you just do. I'm from Canada. It's okay.
I have spent so much.
Canada.
This fountain is awesome. And then coming up, there's a dome building coming up. If they keep panning a little more, there it is. Look at this. Oh yeah, sorry, it's not enough up here in Canada to put a dome. We'll put another dome on top of a dome. You gotta have the double dome. You can't have a boobie without a nipple. Excuse me, but you can't have a boobie without a nipple. That's an amazing building.
Is that technically, what is that, the cupola? Is that what they call it? Cupola? Or is that like it sets on a different structure?
Well, a cupola is usually It's sort of raised on columns generally, I think, or not necessarily on columns. It can be solid brick walls, but to me, that's just a dome on top of a dome. Taints and claims. Does Terrence and Philip offend Canadians? Personally, not really. It's just like, whatevs. You know?
Is that the standard uniform?
That's probably... it's probably brand, but that's probably the Princess Patricia, part of the Canadian Light Infantry in the Army. They wear kilts.
Oh. And like the Irish.
And they play bagpipes too. That's Scottish.
Scottish. Oh yeah, I'm tired.
And like the full regalia, like the sporting and the tall socks that they fold down.
I know where this is. We all know where this is. It's Hamilton. And that's called Hamilton, Ontario. I've never been there. Isn't it? Or isn't Hamilton the one where they do all the? Or did I get that joke wrong?
I don't know. What joke?
The pollution out east where they do all the industrial stuff. Is that Hamilton? That was used to be on the back of like the $20 bill or something. There was like an industrial city on the back of one of our old bills.
Oh, Sudbury probably or something. I don't know. No, I don't remember.
Yeah.
This could be Hamilton though.
Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very socialist up here. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts up here. They've done it to us in very tiny baby step little increments that people barely noticed starting in the late 50s. Actually, probably earlier than that, probably right after the reset of World War II. It started slowly skewing us to a socialist society under the guise of, if people get sick, then there's healthcare, and if this and that and the other. But some of it's good, but most of it is a slippery slope.
It just would have been nice if they told us right from the outset that we were a Cuban Chinese experiment.
Yeah.
It's all right. That's all. We might be able to speak Spanish.
Looks like we're in Bavaria, but no, this is the Great White North, eh? These light fixtures. It's pretty amazing. I think this is
I don't know. You know what? Some of these films start feeling like, did you guys ever read The Stand?
Stephen King?
Yeah. Like, where is everybody all the time? Like, it's very post-apocalyptic. That's all we just don't need at the beginning of the film,
Look at that spire sticking out of the trees on that island there.
I was trying to look at to the right of it, like a boat dock, I guess. Pretty fancy looking.
Yeah, boathouse. But
and then,
a big boathouse.
It almost looked like just a narrow tree. But you said it looks like a tower spiral.
Yeah, it looks like a tower with something on the top there. Either that or it's one tall tree. No, that's a tower sticking out of there. And just to avoid confusion, you'll see the Union Jack, the British flag, in old Canadian footage because we didn't get our own maple leaf, as most people recognize our maple leaf flag, until the 1960s. There's still a lot of parts of Canada that are still exactly like this and haven't changed. Up in cottage country and the lake country up in Ontario, in and around like the lakes in Manitoba, like a lot of the rural areas, they're still just very pristine and beautiful and green trees and blue water. It's really only the cities, just like everywhere else, I guess, where they constantly trying to pack more and more of us into these congested cities. But you get out of the cities, and and most Canadians live so close to the American border or in and around the the West
smallest.
Coast or the East or around the Great Lakes, right? So
there's casinos that sit on First Nations land that border Canada and the US that you can just walk in one side and walk out the other. Not just anyone, but
that's the world's smallest bridge. I thought it would be smaller.
That's
pretty fancy for a little bridge, though.
The smallest international bridge in the world.
The international bridge. Oh,
but it just goes to one little. It just goes to a teeny tiny island that isn't even attached to the mainland of the other country. They just drew a border through the bridge for shits and giggles.
Yeah,
that's worse than the world's largest hockey stick or the world's largest beaver or whatever we deal up with. Every town has its like world's largest teepee, world's largest hockey stick.
Yeah. Up here, there's a town up near Edmonton called NorthAMerica, I think, and they have the world's largest Easter egg.
I accidentally clicked way too far back.
That's all right. We really wanted to see this little teeny tiny bridge again.
I was trying to cue that up, and then it went all the way to
the flagpole probably has an American flag on it. Look
at
this place.
That is crazy looking. Even an island or a peninsula, because the front of it on the left right here is a big structure, let alone back and to the right. That's even like a castle.
That turret with the conical dome on top looks like it's coming right out of the water. The one right on the very far left.
See if we get closer.
No.
Of course. Like it's not interesting enough to look at.
Whoever the jackass cameraman was cut way too soon.
Just tell the vegans to cover their eyes. Tell the vegans to cover their eyes. Did you see that?
Nope, I didn't see it.
Hogwarts. Oh, because it looked like that
funny.
school from Hogwarts, right? Yeah, the Harry Potter. Look at this place. There's a big clock tower there. Where is that? St. Lawrence, shooting the Lawrence. Okay, so it's somewhere.
I was wondering if we
I don't know
Google.
where that was.
Babe, can you Google? I already have 2 more tabs up, so I don't want to lock my computer down. The smallest international bridge from Canada to the U.S. I think that's what it was before, where that structure building was. Maybe we can try and find it, see if it's still there.
It's got to be somewhere in Ontario, I would guess, but don't know for sure. But yeah, Matt is right. It looks like Hogwarts School from the Harry Potter. I'm not a big Harry Potter guy, but I know what you mean.
All the X-Men movies, well, not all of them, but the school in the X-Men movies is just around the corner from, it's 10, 15 minutes from my house.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I was a waitress back when they were filming the first one. I was a waitress back, and Ian McClellan used to come and hang out and sit in my fellow server Ian's with the two gay Ians would hang out, and he'd eat it in Ian's section all the time. And yeah,
that's pretty cool. But yeah, they film a lot of movies in BC and here in Alberta too, especially in the last 20 years. Movies and TV shows like that. I don't know, that one based on a video game that just came out there last year.
Doesn't the films have the real feel of just a gigantic Disneyland, though?
Sort of.
Right? I think, Joe, are you going to share where that location might be?
There's a lot of hotels that look like that. I don't want to brag.
Yeah, that's going to be, I was talking earlier about the show I do with Old World Exploration called the Knuckleheads Show. And our next episode next month in August, we'll be looking at all the old railway hotels across Canada. So that's going to be pretty amazing.
I wouldn't be surprised, you guys. Like, I live in a port city, and even in the last 50, 70 years, they filled in an entire bay, and they totally changed the landscape of bridged areas. You know, they built infrastructure between bridges like this, so you don't even know you're on bridges anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like they buried so much waterworks and raised so many cities that I wouldn't be surprised if it'd be hard to find the same bridge.
No, he found the little bridge. You can still see the stone. But I was.
But it doesn't go to a little teeny tiny landmass like that other one.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
like
right.
they,
So
I guess-
that might not be it then.
Sea dredge the bottom, land.
But I just answered my own question. They can fill it in. They can, you know what I mean? They can have changed the landscape, left the bridge, right? Because I just said they filled in whole areas and buried them. So
I'll look for it because I know the general area. So I was just interested in what that big castle-looking thing was on that island.
search a picture of the Empress Hotel in Victoria. I don't know if it looks like that, or Banff Springs, but that's too. There's no water up there. That bridge. Yeah. I don't know. We have a lot of waterways around here.
Train.
There it is. There it is.
Did you find it?
No, I was saying there it is to the train. I'm kind of an old steam locomotive freak. I love those things.
Wow. Okay, swinging that out. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them to have buried entire waterworks like this that they still use.
There, I queued it up better again.
Awesome. Look at that. Yeah, they just swing the bridge around, let the train cross, and then swing it back for the boats to go through. Very simple, you know. You don't have to overcomplicate shit.
Absolutely simple. Yep. It's one of the, with the structure on the first bridge they built to the Key West, they did one of these.
Not sure if you should be using little kids to. Those look like little kids.
That looks like that.
Not little kids. They look like a couple of 12-year-olds doing that job. Or am I crazy?
I feel like, well, my stepdad was born in the 30s, and he was definitely working jobs like that by the time he was 12 years old. But I'll bet you that that's the Rideau Canal. What other canals do we have that have that kind of like lock system and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's probably the Rideau
You
Canal
know,
in Ottawa.
that's the Rideau Canal. So that hotel is likely that big hotel is likely in Ottawa. Or that big Castle Lake building's probably in. I mean, there's so many Great Lakes. I'm just picking the cities that are beautiful along the Rideau Canal. That looks like where I live. You used to live, where I grew up.
Looks like where I live too, actually.
Yeah. It might look more like where you live because I don't see enough mountains in the background for my province, even though we have some flat areas.
Yeah, if there's no mountains in the background, it's not Alberta either.
Yeah. Although eastern Alberta, once you get further east, you can't see the mountains, right? Or can they be seen from pretty much the whole province?
You can pretty much see them, yeah, from the whole, like on a clear day, especially in the summer, early summer, when the sun has started to get higher in the sky, as it were, but there's still a little bit of snow on the tops of the mountains. They kind of reflect, so you can see them quite a bit further away.
You know, that looked really fake, this one shot right here on this old building. They have miniature setups of these places that are amazingly done to scale. And there's a miniature world here, and they've been around for like 70 years. They used to have a gigantic map of Vancouver Island, you know, so they could do the weather and stuff like that before they had graphics.
Oh, that's real. That's real footage. That looks real.
It does have that, as it's panning, it did look like
just that one building.
It looked yeah, that's because it is unreal compared to the buildings we build now.
It's from a whole nother realm of real.
It's like, it looks like a wedding cake, not like a building. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, could have been Quebec's. Yeah, the Rideau Canal goes into Quebec, right? What most people don't realize in Canada that we've got our parliament buildings and everything in Ottawa, but almost all the federal government business is done across the border in Quebec. All the federal buildings, or almost all the federal buildings, are in Hull, Quebec.
Yeah.
And so we're actually kind of run by Quebec. That's where they speak French, for those that might not know.
Yeah, Hull's really
The rest-
close to Montreal.
Do you guys actively ignore French? We actively ignore French the further west we go. Just on the packages, not the people.
Michiganders do that too. We ignore the French language.
It seems that the further west you go, there's less and less people that can speak French, so don't pay attention to it. But it's also like that in most parts of Quebec and New Brunswick too, where they're so heavily populated with French speakers that they basically don't even pay attention to the English on the packaging.
Yeah.
Because here in Canada, by the way, for those that don't know, like everything has to have English and French. A bag of chips, a bottle of ketchup, a jug of motor oil. It has to have English and French on it.
Yeah.
Ingredients have to be listed in English and French, all of that.
Yeah, just not road signs.
Yeah. Well, on federal land, they're supposed to have both English and French, like at airports.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And army bases, and
Ooh, this is good.
Bases.
What? Can we read this?
Yeah.
Abraham, yeah.
Wow.
Military headquarters of Montcalm, 1759, to which he was brought back wounded from the Battle of the Plains of Abraham. Wow.
Oh, here we go. Brace yourself. This guy's zip-zagging and bebopping all over the place with his camera. Come on, buddy.
Probably weighs 40 pounds.
Yeah.
That pavilion.
That's a good point.
Like a pavilion roof over there. They're really fancy.
Yeah, it's like a little gazebo, but they can't just do a regular roof. They got to do fancy roof. That's what they're going to show for the chateau, really?
Fancy? I know, right?
Oh, no, there we go. He's going to pan up at it. I mean, it's right there in the name. Chateau is French for castle. So it's Chateau Frontenac, Frontenac Castle.
Is that in Montreal?
That's in Quebec City.
Quebec City.
Which is a walled city. It's a star fort. It's a star city.
Yeah. So is Victoria.
Wow.
I think a lot of old Canadian cities are star cities. I think Victoria. I think Montreal, Ottawa. I think Newfoundland was as well. St. John's, Newfoundland. Look at that. The old parts of Quebec City look like Europe. You know, like narrow streets, brick streets.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. Windy roads. The streets don't necessarily go in straight lines. And if they do, they kind of fan outward.
Yeah, that's the feel when I look at it. It doesn't feel like I'm looking at Canada.
There's a part of as you enter into the old part of Quebec City and you pass through the wall, there's like a big, huge arch. I think it might be on this footage because I think I may have seen this before. There's a road that just ends here too, and it comes to like basically a big steep hill, almost like a wall of mud. If it's the video I'm thinking of.
Special car. What's special?
Oh, it's
in our photo.
It's a sightseeing rail car. See, there's those two-wheel buggies.
Look at that statue. Looked like it was gold.
Yeah, see, these are like street cars, but they don't have a roof on them. And,
They had those awnings for covering
yeah.
up when it rained, though.
Yeah, and they were tiered. So the further back, it's like sort of like movie theaters, right? Where it's you see how it kind of goes up in steps, so everybody can see over everybody else's head.
Brilliant.
I was looking for
That
very
statue does look gold, yeah.
interesting. And then the stairs afterwards, this steep stairs, the second level.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
As crisp as
there's
it's gonna get. Oh, wow.
that's there's a lot of places in Montreal like that too. But yeah, Quebec City, Montreal, yeah, it kind of looks like New Orleans. It looks like parts of the French Quarter where they do that a lot, and then they have big terraces up on the third floor, like verandas and stuff.
Usually they don't have the stairs like that steep going out towards the street to the second floor, like a terrace or a balcony. They're usually like the stairs would be on the side, more discreet. Because this is like pretty sticking out pretty far, like it's not supposed to be like that.
Yeah, exactly. It comes
That's
straight out
like
to the sidewalk. Yeah, it's like it was
more.
an afterthought.
I want to say fancy places in New York area come to mind, where they've modified the building to make the second floor the first floor by putting stairs, but then they dig out the first questionable first floor is in the ground.
Mm.
And it's like, even if you're not in a flooded area, anytime it rains, you have to deal with drainage issues. So it doesn't make sense to build a building like that into the ground. Then again, it could have been more milder climate. They never had to deal with rain. They might have had a lot of dew, mist, moisture. Rain came later.
Yeah, who knows?
Just never know. But it still doesn't look like it's supposed to.
Get off the track, kid. Sorry.
Like
Damn kids. Look,
You're
it's a
playing
game. It's a game to those freaking kids running back and forth in front of the freaking trolley.
You guys play chicken? Is that just
Well,
a
I
redneck?
don't, but I know what you mean. See, look at them. They're zigzagging and zipping across the wee. Stupid ass. Where are your parents, kid? There's that arch.
I saw the stairs.
So look at these kids. What's wrong with these kids? Oh, it's
They
fun.
they ain't got no Nintendo.
Yeah.
Oh, I did it again.
It's fun until you get deleted.
God.
The mouse moves. The pause button and the track line of the film is right next to each other. It's trying to get the stairs. But so this is the Archie we're trying to talk about.
Yeah, and you can
We're
see it's
talking
big
about.
enough that the tram or the trolley or streetcar, whatever you want to call it, can go right underneath it too. And it's still there now, and like big city buses drive through it and stuff. Gotta have.
So it was already arched high enough for a.
Yeah, exactly. Already a big, huge arch. Oh, thanks, Joe. I don't know who Wolf was. Some general, some Canadian general or something. I have no idea.
Did you learn that in history at all?
Plains
Anyone?
of Abraham?
Yeah.
A little bit, but I actually remember my dad talking about it because I don't know how he got on the subject of it, but they taught my parents' generation about it. I'm 53. My dad's 75. He was born in 1948. So when he was in school, they taught them about the French Indian Wars and the Plains of Abraham and all that. Look at this.
Here in Victoria,
The
they used to
hodgepodge.
set the cannons off in Victoria every night. The cannon shot would be fired in the 40s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
At what time? Scare the crap out of everybody. I guess you get used to it.
Good question. I just remember I followed some history pages that a friend's dad followed and on Facebook, and he put a comment in one day saying, from a picture, that's what it was, saying, "You guys remember when they used to set those off every night at dinner time or something?" But I loved how you said that, like middle of the night. Just because I wouldn't put it past the government, though. Like, come on, these people have been doing all sorts of psyops on us.
Well, look at these cannons. Some of them look pristine. Some of them look like they're all beat up and I don't know what. They're partially melted or something. They're different sizes, therefore probably different calibers or whatever.
If a cannon could talk.
Yeah, why would you even put that? Exactly. Why would you even put that on display?
Like they're
To
not
make
even
it
all the
look like-
same cannons, you know.
No, but it also, like the beat up ones, they look weathered, they look haggard, like they've seen
They've seen battle.
the ugly side of battle.
It just looks like props. You know, just it does. It's like the ladder, you know, and all the building scenes and you know, I don't know, it's just
Yieldy
weird.
ladder lean.
It reminds me of when I was in Israel in the early 80s on an educational tour, and they had these tanks everywhere from old battles, but they still had people walking around with guns, you know?
So they're supposed to be working on the
Reenactment kind of theme. They went to Key West last year in March. The cannons were set up like a prop because it just didn't add up with the size of the cannon to the window to it being like secured, locked into the wall and the floor. I'm like, this thing is so big and heavy, and the walls are like 5-8 feet thick, they said, or something. It still didn't make any sense. It would still rip and like juggernaut itself out of the wall. And then there was no way, for how it was secured into the wall and the floor, there's no way that you could refill the cannon, how you have to, you know, put the ball in and then light it, because there's not enough swivel room for what they're trying to tell you they did with some scrawny 90 pounds soaking wet in, let's say, the Key West. It's hot and humid. There wasn't enough fresh water. They were eating turtle soup every day, if that. They were not growing food. There wasn't any gardens right away. So fishing, turtles, not enough fresh water, they say, to build this massive 16 million brick structure at Tortuga, and then the smaller version in Key West to still be like, there's just it's too much that doesn't add up.
None of it makes sense. The last episode of Knuckleheads that we did, we were looking at Nanaimo, and they have a Hudson's Bay company, or Northwest Mounted Police, I should say. Sorry, they're interchangeable, but anyways, Northwest Mounted Police fort, like that old turret there, and there's cannons inside that poke out the windows, but the cannons are pointing in 360-degree directions. So the cannons are also pointing into Nanaimo. And then in the newer pictures, they took the cannons away. But you look at the old pictures and old footage, the cannons are pointing. They've got, let's say 12 holes for the cannons, so 12 cannons sticking out in a 360-degree panoramic scope around this bloody
It's like the pipe sticking out of this.
What is going on here, Frankie?
I know. Why are they hiding? What are they doing? Nobody can show us their water receptacle because it says like it's a Starbucks cup or something.
No, this is it's a public water fountain. I don't know what.
Yeah, but nobody. Everyone's got their heads down. Nobody. You can't even see. It's just a very strange picture. Like,
well,
the water's.
The pipes and the water. It doesn't look like it's supposed to actually. Like they modified it.
Yeah, it used to be a fountain or something, and now they've got it as a public public drinking water, or I don't know if it would be drinkable. Can't see why it wouldn't be.
What are they doing? Oh, they're okay. I see drinking. Finally.
And then they'd be, yeah. I mean, it's
It was a
like
very
a European thing. Like European towns and cities had a little like town square, and they would have a public fountain.
Yeah, I had them growing up in Kelowna. We had them along the water fountains for them, but they were just the little ones like you had in school. But we also had public pools when I was growing up. Most towns had not a very deep, but at your city park had a pool you could go swim in the summertime.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we had those too. But I'm talking about back in the day, they actually had like fountains, like the fancy fountains that you see in front of hotels, but they were in a town square, and it was a public fountain. And you could go there and collect water, and because not every home had access to water.
This is Montreal now. This is Mount Royal, Montreal.
So, Frankie, somebody was being a little cheeky there, if you can read that.
Harsh punk music. Man, oh man, you got to rethink what you call punk rock if you think that the music I play on my channel is harsh punk.
That's why I said I think they're being cheeky, right? Because, the smiley face.
Although there is some good punk rock that comes out of Canada, eh? DOA, for example. So you got to have the A on there, but it's literally the letter D, the letter O, the letter A. DOA. As opposed to how a Canadian would say Dio, the heavy metal guy from the 80s, where we would call him DOA. But it's different than DOA. I'm sure I haven't confused anybody. That's not smoggy at all. But that's Montreal for you.
It's interesting how it's gone. The Office uses the reference, water cooler talk. Right? In an office, you have you've got your water cooler.
Stand around the water cooler.
Stand around the water cooler. Yeah, that would come from the old local watering holes. That's what old world Micmac said that. Yeah, right there. But still, that's where we'd get that from, right? Would imagine.
Well, I don't know about you, but around here we also will call like a watering hole is a slang for a pub or a bar or a tavern. Maybe not necessarily a nightclub with the oots and the lights flashing in a guy's eyes and stuff, and the hoochie mamas and the chads running around. But, just like your local around the neighborhood tavern or pub would also be called a watering hole. But it probably goes all the way back to,
so
a well, a community well.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Phil. Phil's in the house. Oh my goodness. So that was the end of that video, right, JJ?
Team Heat. Sorry, just had to shout out Team Heat.
Yep. So now for I'm gonna do it anyway. We'll just see what happens. So BurnEye, aka Crypto Alchemist, aka Burn Man. I call him Burn Man. I just think it's funny. He was allegedly supposed to be here this evening with us, and we do fully intend to do probably a part 2 Canadian style vintage, So hopefully he'll be here on the next one. So in light of BurnEye not being here and being such a busy bee that he is,
my favorite kind of traveling. Yeah, we're adventuring. Come along with Burn and Ernie. We're gonna take a little journey. Burn and Ernie's great adventures.
If you act like that bee acts, you're working too hard.
Work, busy bee!
that is for BurnEye out there doing his birthday Well, I don't know. You know a little more about it, Frankie. What's Bernie been up to since he couldn't make it?
Well, he's on vacation, so he's been taking a road trip to do some boots on the ground video footage. Took his drone down to the Alberta Badlands in southeastern Alberta, in and around Medicine Hat, which Kimray in the chat, that's her neck of the woods. So he went to Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump. Yes, that's the name of that place. It's by the narrative where they say the native indigenous Indians used to herd the buffalo and chase some of them off the cliff because it was more efficient. Anyways, there's a big museum and interpretive center there, but there's all kinds of crazy rock formations down there. So he was there. He was at Red Rocks Provincial Park or something like that. He's went to check out the petroglyphs that are down there and the geoglyphs that are down in and around the Badlands area. And then he was going to music festival. What do you call it? The name, I'm just having a mental hiccup. The name escapes me. One of them there music. Sorry?
I was just going to say Shambhala.
That's it.
Nelson. Yep.
Yeah. He was going to Shambhala. So he's driving through the mountains because it's in Nelson, BC. So he's got to drive back into Alberta. So he's got to drive through the Rockies. So sometimes with traffic, on a weekend or close to a weekend, especially in the summer, it'll put a guy behind schedule very, very quickly. Not to mention if they had a lot of rain there, which they have, there could be rock slides or landslides, and there's forest fires all over there, so they could have road closures and detours and stuff. So that's probably why he's not here, because he just got cell service about half an hour ago.
Oh, I just realized JJ's already pulling up some. You're muted. You're muted. I'll unmute, or I'll mute.
Unmute. Sorry, Kimray. I'm sorry. She's in Strathmore, not in Medicine Hat. My bad. Why did I think you were in Medicine Hat, Kimray? I apologize. Strathmore. I know exactly where Strathmore is. I don't know why I had the hat in my head. I'm supposed to have my head in my hat. Ba-dum-ts.
This is the dam that one of your fellow Michiganders is suggested.
Yeah, somebody put it when we were looking at that first film with Niagara Falls.
Yeah, I think it was either Michigander or Johnny somebody who said he was a. What did you call them? What did you call the northern Michiganders? What did you?
Yoopers.
Euchre?
Yoopers.
Oh, Euchre. Euchre's a game. Euchre should play euchre.
Yeah.
Euchre should play euchre.
They do.
They do. Oh, they do.
According to my dad, old Michigander, my dad, it's one of their favorite games. I am not a gamer of any kind. But this is the Pinawa Dam near Winnipeg that was mentioned.
Okay.
So that's just the location.
Mimic in the chat he says, sorry, I don't, he, she, they, I'm Indigenous and Canadian. There you go. What nation are you, if I may ask?
That's a clear picture. See if it stays clear.
Yes, I believe Old World Micmac. We just call him Micmac.
Oh, I thought it was Mimic. It's Micmac. Okay, so
Micmac. Yes.
Mimic.
So is that's Mi'kmaq. Yeah, that's Mi'kmaq Nation, I think. That's in eastern Canada, I believe, and around the Great Lakes.
Oh, there you go, Frankie.
I can't read that. It's way too tiny. Oh, what are those things? Oh, those are the dynamos or the generators. Okay. Winnipeg Electric Company. Cool.
He said that, yes, it's the Micmac Nation.
Yeah, Mi'kmaq.
Yep, Mi'kmaq. Yep. Oh, you're muted.
Old World Michigan is here too. I think he snuck in. I didn't see him. There he is. How you doing? Good to see you. Sneaky, sneaky. Kimberly's saying I'm Métis. Does that even count? Of course that counts. Sheesh. Don't be so hard on yourself. But that's part of the narrative for the Métis people. Is that not only do you not fit in with the pale face, you don't fit in with the redskins, so you got to try to figure out you're not getting any privileges from either. You're not getting any of the special arrangements made with the First Nations. You're not getting any of the benefits of that the white people get. And then so they tried to get their own nation formed after the Red River Rebellion, which would have been called Manitoba, but Manitoba, that deal didn't work out. Manitoba ended up being a huge tract of land and became a province instead.
Bexx, this is the Niagara Falls near you.
No, I don't. Let's see, go back again. Oh, it is? You're right. Sorry, I didn't mean to judge you. It's just I tried to find those pictures and I just zoomed right over them. So it is a horseshoe falls, is it? It looks like it.
Okay.
And does it show if you zoom? Interesting. But that, it's so strange to me.
It looks pretty just wide. Maybe it's forming into a horseshoe.
Yeah, I think, no, if you look really closely, that one side, I think you'd know it's the way the mist comes up. I feel like that if you look the closest left-hand side, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just wanting to see it. It's like, which way is the girl spinning? But I see that that's a horseshoe. My eye sees horseshoe, but I just don't even know where that is. Because I know it says Goldstream Park. But if you look at the pictures of the one at Goldstream Park, it doesn't look at all like that.
No, I think somebody's mixed something up, and one of those pictures
I think
is
so
actually
too.
Niagara
Yeah.
Falls, Ontario.
I think so too. Yeah, but they're yeah, because it's not.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I looked. Goldstream Park is beautiful, but there's some sort of and I tried to find it, but it didn't seem right. There's Della Falls is pretty big, but there's one you have to hike into, and I'm sure it's just not as easily searchable because of the way that tourism works. You know, like you can find it, but there is I don't think any of them are dams like that I know of on the island.
Right, because you mentioned it, and even just to go Google and search it, and then you find something.
Yeah, I found that same picture. Yeah.
This is what I found, and you're like, something's not adding up. This is my backyard. Yeah. So it's cool to verify that you're like, and even Frankie going, I think somebody pinned, and I see it all the time. Somebody pinned a picture location where it's not really.
But that's where I'm going to say it feels like, that one feels, that's always felt like a Mandela effect to me. That's something that wasn't here some time ago, or I would have known that just 20 minutes away I would have made jokes about it, right? Like,
I live in Niagara Falls. Yeah.
Yeah, you know? So
yeah.
It could also be that some of these words mean something in sort of a continental, in whatever dialect maybe some of these First Nations tribes spoke, like a continental term for some kind of waterway, right? Like, and now they're putting names back as the land is being honored as not ours, you know? That could also be one of the things they're doing.
The manipulation.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? You know.
Changing.
Yeah.
Oh, you get the next film for us, babe? Or for them?
Yep.
Our Canadian guest, honorary Maple Leafs of the North. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient.
Oh, pause that.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this video. I've clipped this one and loaded on my channel before too. This is a great video. It shows you rural life in French, like small town
It was really hard to find
Quebec.
anything of Canada, whether it was through YouTube.
Look at that
Especially-
wording. Here in the alien distance of time and space, in the new world today survives a bit of the old provincial France of the 17th century. Dun, dun, dun.
I know, so dramatic.
Alien distance of time and space. See,
The
at
French
least
are
here,
different, but they're not that different. Jeez.
yeah, well, but it's almost like they're admitting that it's found. It's almost like they're admitting that it's found, because like how else would, it's just so strange.
Yeah, this is the video I was thinking of. This is a great video. It shows all kinds of just daily life stuff. I mean, again, the people know they're being filmed, so some of it might be, you know, like sit out on your porch and smoke your pipe kind of a thing. But
Look at, there's that name, eh? Trudeau.
oh yeah, that's an old name.
It means,
Is it?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that when I was looking for the film.
Baptiste Trudeau. If you look, if you just switch a couple letters there, the last three letters of that word for sure do mean O, means water, right?
Yeah.
But then it actually means poop water.
Well, trou in French, trou is a hole.
So it's a watering hole. His last name means watering hole.
So it's like he's like a puddle, a mud puddle.
He's a mud puddle, yeah.
Yeah. He would say
I prefer to
he would
see.
say he's holy water, but
I see turd water. I see turd water. Sorry.
well, yeah,
But that's because
you definitely switch the U and the R around, and yeah, you get turd for sure. Turd water. I love where your head's at. I like how your mind thinks there.
Thank you. Thank
I
you very
love
much.
this. I like how this kid's made his own little cart and his dog's pulling it. This kid's awesome.
Surf's up, dude.
It is still a land of homespun and happiness.
Such happiness.
Rumpelstiltskin, Rumpelstiltskin.
So happy to have all those blisters on her fingers and thumbs from spinning wool all day.
Wow. I'm going to keep it. Nothing. It's funny, we watch these vintage films, brings out the cleanest side in me. I keep thinking of jokes to make. I'm like, oh no, not on the vintage film. The tradition. Yep.
Oh yeah, the weaving. Yeah, this is cool.
It does pop in my head, like, oh, I started it over again. Sorry, y'all. With some of the devices, like how they teach us that even from 100, 120, 150 years ago, they still give us the impression, oh, we came from nothing. And then one person out of nowhere invented something that was so helpful, and then they industrialized it, and they put it in a factory, and it just like, because even the weaving machine to make clothes, rugs, curtains, you know, it's still simple in today's sense, but still so complex. All of the nook and cranny compartments to put it together. It blows my mind to think that how they tell us to dumb it down, basically. That it's not a big deal, but it was a big deal, but it's not a big deal. It's a roller coaster ride of when they tell you to jump and be excited, and you're like, yay, okay, cool. And then they're like, no. Not what I meant. It just plays with you, and you have to undo all of that to go, there's something else going on here. That these inventions were maybe around longer, and obviously humans were not dumb.
Watch Day is immortal. What a strange thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's all right.
And look how happy and thrilled she looks to be doing the wash.
Yeah.
She's happy.
All they do is they just boil it and rinse it, or what's going? Oh, I see. That's the soapy water side.
Yeah, that's
hot
the
water
hot
side.
board.
Boiling water. You don't have to grab it with your hands.
Clothes get really clean that way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Because there are times that we've had
This
our
kid's a
washer,
boss.
your washer break, and I've done it old school out of the bathtub with an extra tub. The longer you let your items soak, hot water or even warm water, if you soak anything in clean water or gentle soap for 12 hours and get it rinsed and wrung and then put it in the dryer, those items come out brand new. Like they feel fluffy, fresh. It'll be 12-hour soak. It's going to come out new. Now it's soaked for 12 hours because I didn't really want to wash anything by hand. So I just left it sitting there until I was ready to deal with it. But it came out so fresh and clean. And I'm like, see, procrastination pays off, because now my comforter felt like new comforter. My clothes felt very new without overly chemically processed. Yeah, procrastination paid off. Okay.
If we could communicate through space and time, I suddenly heard all sorts of women through all time with some sort of Homer Simpson don't going echoing back from there. Like, because seriously, a lot of time spent scrubbing when they could have just left it for 12 hours even then.
Who knows? I don't know. I was just like, I don't want to do it.
Well, the money people would have saved taking their stuff to the Chinese laundry that every little town had.
Wayside shrines hold the faith before the faithful. What a strange thing to say.
By the way, lots of Roman Catholics in Quebec, especially in rural Quebec.
We leave very quiet way back on the country. Don't put on Sam style lack the big village. I mean, you would have done a way better job there, Frankie.
This is bigoted, and I'm very highly offended as a half French Canadian and half English Canadian guy. They're making fun of the way that French Canadians speak.
I love it. It sounds beautiful.
Stand for it. I won't have it.
We leave very quiet way back on the country. Now, see, that's still, it doesn't seem. Anyway.
It almost sounds Jamaican. Like the island.
It's no different than, the back in the silent film era when they would show an African American and they were always like a house servant or some village idiot, and they always spoke in like a broken English patois.
Yeah, because it's like in the South.
That's kind of what this
proof right there. They had voice to text back then, my friends. Look at it.
Contraire.
That's what voice to text.
Basically, they're saying we live very quiet in the country, not the same style as in the big city.
Well translated.
Yeah, it's fun to see how they wrote things, how the grammar has changed, but it's also like a rebellion in modern times today is stirring up to resort to spelling country that way. Spell it like you sound. That's how I would have probably spelled country, like breaking it down, because I have dyslexia, so my auditory and visual learning to spell it like it sounds, I'm going to grab what I know.
Sorry, loud motorcycle going by.
It sounded like a plow down the street. I'm like, is it snowing?
No.
That's exactly what it sounds
take off. Hey, it's not snowing. Hey, it's July. It's super hot out. It's still like 25 Celsius here right now.
It sounded like a grinding
Fahrenheit. No,
it sounded like a grinding metal of the plow pushing against the street. So I was like nostalgic for a second.
My neighbor's got a very loud Harley Davidson, but it's a vintage old school Harley, so it's very nice actually, but also still very loud. I'd rather stay and spend. I'd rather stay and spend my last days on the farm. Oh, that's my white horse, by the way. He's also saying. Oh, no, that's the name of his farm. The white horse is the name of his farm, is what he's saying. So he'd rather stay in the country the way it is now.
On the farm by the rapids.
On the farm by the rapids called the white
horse.
The white horse. And then he's just plowing away old school style. And his grandkids aren't even helping. Get in there, kid.
Well, the big camera is, it's a big, bulky, heavy thing, and the guy's probably wheeling it to film everything. So, like, kids, they're like, what is that?
Yeah, what's that contraption?
Yeah, you just stare.
Papa, qu'est-ce que c'est?
It's weird as they keep.
play with me.
Well, that came out of nowhere, babe.
This is like a good lesson in pronouns and nouns that you call people, because every time they refer to someone, a lad, L-A-D, now it's they live so far back. So all human references, except for when they're translating what is it, the countryside dialect, they put in capital letters, not even just at the first word.
The whole, yeah.
Yeah, the whole word.
Word.
Yeah, that's weird.
I remember that.
Straw man, even back then, friends.
I remember that in Jamaican is French.
Well, yeah, they speak a form of
The
patois in Jamaica.
Oh, maybe it is the first word. Look at that. Stand corrected.
Well, maybe
Some
they're
of the
capitalizing
old-
sacred because it's sacred.
Old English books, I remember being a young kid, if it was an old library, you pulled out the library books that were like almost like a cloth cover. The first word of the page, the whole word would be capitalized. Some of them, not each paragraph, but the beginning of the page.
I remember this little
Little
church, because this
Little
is just
church.
in a little tiny little French village.
Look at the gold statue on top of that one too. It looked, or at least slightly different shade.
It's got the somatic window above the door, big pillars or on either side of the door. You got cupolas with domes on them. There's portals all over this thing. Cupolas with spires in the back.
Don't forget the wind catchers.
Oh, all that stuff, dude. And then there's a huge garden here too.
It has traditions of healings and rewards for the devout. It's kind of ominous.
Well, there is something to be said for perhaps in the old world, pre-reset, what we're now called churches, places of worship, were healing centers. I've heard that from a number of different people that kind of research alternative history. This is just a big, huge sort of pilgrimage.
Unless we look in, and that has the teeniest, tiniest pope from the small land in that teeny tiny.
Yeah, it's that's right. It's Pygmy Pope.
Yeah, you heard about the giants, but
That's
you didn't
Pygmy
hear
Pope
about the
from,
little guy.
Pygmy Pope from the North Pole.
The Pygmy Pope, yep.
From one of those islands by
She's
the North
holding a
Pole by
small
Mount
cup.
Maru that says it's
That's the drinking
pygmies.
fountain.
This lady looks super happy to be on camera, by the way.
Yeah, look at her, man.
She's pissed off.
Oh my God.
She's going to slap that cameraman right in the mouth.
And this is a drinking fountain up here. The lady was holding a cup.
Yeah.
And this is like the spigot we saw in the other film of the drinking fountain. Even like the brickwork down here, it doesn't look like this is like newer. Cheap, very crappy, chintzy.
Yeah, it's been modified. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Wow. The sites and buildings are just stunning.
It almost looks like a metal roof, doesn't it? I'm sure it's brick or something, but it's because you can see the metal looks like metal on those domes, so it kind of this has the same shine though.
Yeah, I think it's because it's slate. It's a slate roof, I think. There's an old Catholic church just a couple of blocks from me that's got mud flood windows and stuff. And I filmed it, I think, last summer or the summer before. Anyway, they still ring the bell before service and stuff. It's a pretty nice old building, and it's got a slate roof. And in the sun, it's really shiny. It looks beautiful. It's a sort of a blue-green, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like this could
Even
be-
from this angle, like Bexx said, some of the angles with the buildings, they look like small miniature set designs that they will, like, movie magic, amplify.
Especially because there's no people around, too.
Yeah,
the
no
other
people.
thing.
There's not even a dog. Like, put in a fake dog or a horse statue, but a real looking fake one.
And part of that's that facade that a lot of buildings have. You can see it in the left-hand side of this picture, maybe. Like it's been connected really well. But like here, when they take down the old buildings, they have to prop up the whole front wall of the building and leave it and build behind it. Right.
Mhm.
So there is a front face to a lot of buildings that stays even now. They're hollowing out buildings downtown and rebuilding the inside, but the outside, because they're heritage, the face is heritage, has to stay the same.
Yeah, they do that here a lot too.
Yeah, but it's weird too, because these buildings that's why I can't believe they have us convinced we're overpopulated. It's so sad, because look at how empty these places are, and this is back to back to back to back to back. And I've lived in Victoria, which is the capital of our province, for almost 30 years, and most of the downtown core until the last, I'd say 7 to 10 years, like where it's really hit its peak in the last couple of years, where they're actually like moving into the second and third floors of all these buildings. They were empty forever, right? We had whole streets of downtown that had like hardly any business on them. You could only do offices because there wasn't enough retail to draw other retail,
Yeah,
so
it happens with a lot of downtowns. That happened with Calgary too.
But it happened before we were born.
It became sort of a dead zone.
But it happened before we were born. It was always empty. They were always empty. You walk past all these cities, they used to have look like they were under construction. They'd leave their scaffolding up for 2 years at a time past a building, right? Like,
yeah,
it's ridiculous how they've brainwashed us to think that there's not enough real estate, I'll bet you most cities are maybe 60% full occupancy anytime, even New York City. These guys, these rich people, they own condos in every city. They own whole floors of buildings their families have had for 7, 8, 10 generations,
There's a lot of empty space in buildings, whether it's commercial or residential. Yeah.
I'll bet you if you counted hotels and spare rooms in people's homes, I'll bet you there's 20 beds for every single person on this planet right now. At least 20 beds per person. The Empress of France connects the new France with the old. What are they saying? Oh, because it's a boat sailing off to the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sailing from Montreal to France. It's a big steamship. Oh, look, they've got electric diesel, and they still have a steam train there too. Yeah, just
I'm always like second behind from pausing it. I'm like, there's a train. Okay. So I wanted to get full frame and centered as possible, and I go to hit pause and it's moved on. And then I go to back it up, and then I back it up.
It's funny. Then they show the buildings below the Chateau Frontenac. Still pan up, but still.
Look at
that dramatic pan.
This is that thing's built on.
This is our background.
We're so blessed. Like those buildings really are. That chateau there's like the hotel, Banff Hotel is very similar. It's beautiful.
Even the train station that's by this hotel is just fantastic. The whole thing is just like a big, huge castle. It's the Citadel in a star city, is what
But
this is.
these cities, the buildings. This is more on the eastern coast of America itself, the whole continent of Quebec, Ontario. It's the Atlantic Ocean side with like, the states. With the buildings are more populated in the Quebec, Toronto, Ontario side. Do you have a lot of building structures this grand on the west coast towards the Pacific?
Oh yeah.
Canada?
Yep.
Because that's what the hardest thing to try and find. And I was looking, it's like they're all, I know they're there, but to try and find anything that shows it, because they, even in the films I'm showing you guys, everything's on the east, and they don't really emphasize anything in the west besides Alaska.
That's why Old World Exploration and I on our next Knucklehead show are going to do all of these old hotels, because they're all railroad hotels, and it goes from coast to coast.
Awesome.
So you're not only going to see this hotel and other hotels like this in the east, like in Montreal and Toronto, but you also see them in the prairies, in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and out in BC too, and on the island too.
On the islands, that's even
like on Vancouver Island.
Break your neck. I was like, watch me whip, watch me nay. Break your legs. No, this is break your neck.
Oh yeah, I think this is what I was talking about earlier.
That's what I thought you would. That's what I thought you would say. Look at the wooden boards on the ground.
It's because that street is always muddy. There's another shot of this exact same street, and it's just mud and big puddles.
Yeah, I looked at these stairs almost like those Joker stairs in that video.
Yeah, because look at the buildings on the right hand side.
There's steep everywhere. They're like hiding these stairs. People use them all the time and just get overlooked because they're wedged between a building or so. But they're like 3, 4 floor or more, like floors of height. To say it's just built into a hill. Nothing to see here.
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
This is what you were talking about in the other film, right?
Yeah.
This is, and it's called the Gate of St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah.
That's how you guys pronounce it.
People, we should actually. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just said that the states, they have the St. Louis Gate on the Mississippi.
Yeah, but that's also should be pronounced St. Louis, because Missouri used to be in what was part of the Louisiana Territory, which was, they spoke French.
And I was going to say, people should look into the history of whether they can find pictures of arches like that in their cities. You'd be surprised how many, even in this city, they took it down. But most cities that have old buildings like that have an old arch.
Arches are. I love finding those vintage photographs, but even a film for those arches. The bigger, the better. It's just like, how and why? Do they still have some arch in New York, or is it London that I'm thinking of? Where they drive around it like it's a roundabout with the arch. It's like a 4-way arch.
Oh, that's in Paris. That's the Arc de Triomphe, yeah. But a lot of the old European cities have those arches, the same as in Paris, actually.
Can you see
Triumph arches? They're called Arc de Triomphe.
Just beyond the man sitting on the long bench, this centerpiece in the park?
Yeah.
Does it look like it should be a fountain? It looks like it's part of a church.
Yeah, it looks like a steeple of a church or something.
It's in the middle like a fountain. Wow.
But you're right about the St. Louis thing, though, JJ. Like, it's interchangeable. Like, most people, like Canadians call the city of St. Louis, we call it St. Louis. We don't call it St. Louis. It's funny because, like, in Eastern Canada, even somebody out west would look, and if they know that if it's something in Quebec, they would pronounce it St. Louis. But if
I think
it
we
was
call
in
it because
But
of
if
the
it was in
song.
Ontario, they would say St. Louis. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I think a lot of Americans are just generations when they're young and they hear the song, it changes the language. They said, meet me in St. Louis, Louis. To make it rhyme or sing it in a song, you expand on the vowels usually. Long before the English conquest.
so they're trying to tell you that the French soldiers, French military built the walls around Quebec City.
Look at the stone bricks and what look like brick. I want to say brick, but there's the masonry of chiseling stone into the shape of blocks and stacking them with bricks, and then the ones back behind the wall sticking out like little not indents, but they're not as form shaped. They're just kind of like puzzle pieced in. And then this on the very right side is definitely look like not chiseled stone brick, but like brick shaped, still stone, like 3 different kinds of stone material used. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's not mud flooded and buried at all. You can see how it comes to a point. I mean, the whole thing is just a giant star city.
Yeah, it says, I think BurnEye on his channel showing some of the lands where he's been walking around at, going, it's not natural. There's a pattern you could pick up. I think even you pointed out, Frankie, even when you look at it from Google Earth, when you've done a live stream the last 2 times before, you're like, does that look natural? That doesn't look natural. It sticks out. It's a soft pattern that you pick up on, and you can see it even if it's overgrown and filled in. I love how they were standing there. Action.
Yeah, and go.
You know what I find really strange about these, though? Like, look at the sign. I mean, I know it's wooden and it's out there, and they've just come off the, train to go out sightseeing the little thing, so they don't want to wreck the outdoors or something with their hand-painted sign, but I don't know. It still looks like a prop.
Oh, that's what I was just telling Joe, because we were skimming through it to make sure it was good enough for it to share with our Canadian friends. I said, look at the sign. It's like they just tacked it up like it was a stage set. Threw a pile of tattered looking wood pieces down and said, this is what's left of the fort. Here's a sign which looks brand newly painted. Tack it on a tree and action.
Exactly. That's why I think that's why road signs and stuff are made out of green screen green now. Because then it's easier for them to edit when they're make movies and they want to make them look like it's somewhere else,
That makes sense. Because sometimes I've looked at those when we were the last few years living in Michigan. It's almost like I could see those glitches in the Matrix. I'm like, something staring at it for 40 years. Something wasn't adding up. Something changed. This is the same shot as before. Come on, ride on a fantastic voyage. All right, that wraps up that video.
Yeah, that's a nice one. That really shows a lot of the old Quebec City wall and how some of it is still standing and still really, really high up, like 30 feet up off the ground. And then other parts of it are completely, or almost completely submerged in what looks like mud flood, especially that Plains of Abraham portion. The
Those
last little bit,
stairs,
the
those
last little
buildings.
bit just before the that waterfall. I mean, that whole wall is just, I bet you if you could dig down 40, 50 feet, it would go down that far, just like on the other side of the city.
Yeah, and this was fun because it was like a reverse tour of like, come over to the States and I'm going to show you this footage I have of Canada and you can talk to me about it, and then just given a tour of asking the experts of people who live there, grew up in it, because your education system is different than ours. I grew up in Michigan, and I definitely have told Frankie before, I have not heard of the way you guys talk about Canada, your own country, right next door, the way they might mention things even in the States. And Michigan's right next to it. I'm sitting here going, especially because it's New West reset. He goes, oh yeah, Canada, the West Side with the cowboy country. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Cowboy country is Colorado and like Wyoming. And then he goes, yeah, it's right next to Canada. And I have to break that barrier, that line, that invisible line structure of going, Canada, eh? No, I watch Big Brother or Brother Bear from Disney. I know what Canada is, okay?
Yeah, the cowboy thing is huge all across the prairies, like Manitoba and especially Saskatchewan and Alberta. But in BC, there's cowboys too. There's cattle ranches in BC, and there's horse ranches.
Yep.
And,
My family on my mom's side is big cattle, like one of the biggest cattle producers. My stepbrother is one of the best cattle ranchers in BC.
Like any decent sized small city or really large town, generally they have their own rodeo. So like even the little town that my parents live in, well, it's not so little now. It's a small city now. It's about 50,000 people. But when we moved to Montreal, it only had, I think, 6,000 people there. And even at that point, they had a rodeo every summer. It was just their own little local rodeo. And
I accidentally put it in private chat. I was trying to put it in the regular chat to put the emoji with the cowboy hat, the Canadian, the maple leaf. I put it in private chat. I'm like, see, I'm not tired.
The whole cowboy thing's a big thing up here. You know, the whole narrative of, you know, the cowboys and the wild Indians and the buffalo and all that. Same thing up here. It's the exact same thing. You know, gunslingers.
I can relate Canada with like the Paul Bunyan type of story, but not the Wild West.
Well, we have that narrative too in Ontario and in BC and in Quebec. There's the whole lumberjack narrative, you know, the plaid shirts and you know, the mighty lumberjack swinging the axes that goes back to the 1800s and all that too. Same thing.
Oh, you know what? Real quick. So I believe it was you, Frankie, who mentioned to JJ a certain phrase because her sleep pattern goes with the moon.
Yeah.
Yes, I brought it up.
Lunatic.
So that's why I believe she has the name under it's lunar
rhythm.
Lunar rhythm. Nice.
I was trying to go less away from the lunatic part. I did have it up there. But then I was like,
well, it's got a bad connotation, right? People hear lunatic and they think, oh, it's a ranting, raving, crazy person.
But
the French word for moon is lune, Lune.
Yeah.
So
lunatic, like autodidactic, right?
It's pretty. It doesn't sound like you're crazy.
Yeah, and like heretic. A heretic, is that a bad thing? I know they say it's a bad thing, but you know, heretic, that'd be what some of the stuff, you know, a heretic. Yeah. Heretic, heretic.
See, pronunciation because of language even.
I was just gonna say, what are you talking? I never heard of a heretic, but heretic, yes.
I might be saying it wrong. I likely have read it more than I've heard it. That's all.
Usually I hear things because we were reading an old article and I had heard the name Albuquerque, but I've never seen the word, but I had seen the word. It'd just been like 20 years or more because I'm like, where is Albuquerque? What is Albuquerque? why would you spell Albuquerque that way? And my brain just was going through this weird tick thing of going, Albuquerque? Albuquerque? I'm like, just playing with the word. It's a mouthful.
I love those words. I love those big words. I love the words that don't look like they should be pronounced that way, you know?
The funny thing too with our indigenous people is that a lot of the city and town or lake names or whatever, especially in and around Ontario, and I guess in some respects Manitoba and Quebec too, but it's they're like English versions of the original native language, whatever nation lived in that area. So then they try to spell it phonetically as to how the indigenous people pronounced that word, 200 years ago or whatever. And so you end up with these really weird spellings and these really goofy names. It's really strange.
There's a lot of names because
a lot of French, at the end of stuff.
French Canadian, the French, the natives, and Michigan, I want to say more to the north of Michigan on the hand than the south, but you'll see a few names every now and then, and you're just like, it's like you're coughing up a loogie to try and pronounce it. It's a shame they don't actually give it some more dignity to teach it and help understand that language barrier to teach it, because the phonetics is very off, and that creates the language barrier, creates division. So you got to take it upon yourself to try.
Well,
now
the problem too is there's hardly anybody left to teach it, because
there is a fun one that
hardly anybody can speak their native languages anymore.
Yeah. Because we watch Jay Dreamers a lot, and he is really good. I think he studied it enough for a long time to pronounce things sometimes. But my brain gets really funny when I hear things, and I will get squirrel and distracted, and I will go look for what it reminded me of. So this is an example.
Ow, mau, mau.
So there's wordplay, and you associate some things. Oh my God, I can't remember what I just heard that was so funny the day before. And then Bexx, when we were hanging out on the stream 12 hours ago or so, you said something within the first hour, and I was like, oh, we got her. We got her. She said it. It's audio and video clip. We're gonna clip it. We're gonna tag it. I just remembered whatever you said, how you said it. It was like a yippee-ki-yay-yo, something that you did. I'm like, oh, we are gonna snag that. That is gonna be her call out Shibuya, Shibuya sign.
It's better than my superstar, right? May as well do it again, right?
Yeah, funny. But no, you have your own original thing that we got to put together for you now.
Thank you.
Oh my God,
I don't know what it is, but I have a feeling like I remember that moment, like where I was like, they're going to make a soundbite.
We're going to make a visual soundbite.
Yes.
And we're going to make one for Frankie as well, because we made one for Bernie, right? Well,
oh, good. I can hardly wait to see what kind of shenanigans you get up to. I'm all a Twitter about it.
I'm going to uncam
pins and needles.
I wanted to show the artwork I made. Your flag holding me. Anyways, that's my homage to America.
It's pretty. It is like the color tone of it too. I like that. I want to call it vintage. More old glory feeling of, it's not too like colorful, bold, like pretty, or what do I want to say? I want to say like too I don't know, too glittery. But
you want to know what I was going for, but I just didn't have time because it was like right 10 minutes before we were starting. I wanted to do little tiny white maple leaves instead of the stars.
Oh,
that's what I was trying to get the AI to do, was like little tiny white maple leaves for where the stars are, right? To represent me and my Americanness. you know?
My Americanness. Like
My Americanness.
my Americanness.
Yeah.
Love it.
every time I hear Frankie say about, like I can tell, like
Why do you think I'm saying a boot?
no, the Canadian comes out more with that word about.
It's because we know how to pronounce it properly. About. A-B-O-U-T.
About.
Not a. We don't say a boat because that's what you go on the water in. We don't say a boot because that's what you put on your foot in the winter. We say about.
Okay, Frankie, what do you call the thing the thing they use in the rodeo to, the big rope that they twirl around and catch the cattle with?
Lasso.
What do you guys call it?
A lasso.
See, I think it's same with.
I thought he was going to say a lasso.
That's what I always called it. That's what I always called it. But that's one of my earliest Mandela effects, I think. Or it's just like heretic and I read it wrong. I know a lot of words, but sometimes, I've just only read them.
There's a change in the
I was going to say lariat at first, actually, but.
Well, I've never heard that one.
A lariat?
A lariat. Oh my gosh, I haven't heard that in a while. Yes.
What is that again?
Lariat. A lariat. A lariat is a lasso.
Oh, it's a lasso.
Yes. So actually, down I want to say more in like Texas and probably Tennessee and southern states. Yes, we know what a lariat. Yep, lariat.
Isn't it a Ford truck? Is it a Ford truck? A Ford lariat?
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I was like, it's a chariot. It's something, anyways.
What? I feel like I've never heard of this word before.
Lariat.
It's L-A-R.
I've heard of Larry. I've heard of Mike Larry. Mike Larry. That's what this reminded me of now.
I'm glad I haven't met a Larry in a while because I always call the weird guy at the party Leary. And then there was Leary in the corner. Leary over there, leering away. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called. I didn't mean, sometimes someone's creepy though. I didn't mean to genderize him or her.
Creepy is just creepy.
The creepy person is Leary.
Oh.
And quit saying sorry. You're going to perpetuate the Canadian stereotype that we.
Yeah,
Sorry for saying sorry. Quit saying sorry.
It's actually a reflex response because for some reason tonight it must be my tiredness. I'm keeping it so clean. I'm like, I'm sorry for what I thought. It's what I was thinking. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. You have to keep her up for 8 hours on the stream. She probably stayed up all day like I did. I got like a 4-hour nap before waking up to sit here and be like, okay, we're ready to talk about Canada. I'm ready to talk about Canada. I'm really excited to be here, even though I'm like,
Well, because of nap, actually, I'm gonna have to get going here pretty quick.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I was gonna say we were gonna drop you guys in the back panel there and give a head off.
If the three of you wanted to continue to chat, that's all great. But it's, I'm an old fart, and it's getting late, and guys gotta punch a card for the.
I think we're all in that
AM, so
Yeah. Well, we'll try to talk after, but I think for the stream itself, we'll end the stream and probably chat for a minute afterwards.
Yeah, sounds good.
Something like that. So, alrighty. So, Frankie.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. Much appreciated. Thanks to the chat.
Nice chatting with you,
Nice
Beck.
to meet you, Frankie.
thank you. This was fun.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Take care.
More maple syrup to continue.
Thanks to everybody in the chat for joining us for our shenanigans and our goofy Canadiana.
Oh, she actually dropped out altogether. Didn't need to do that. We were just gonna, do that.
Oh yeah, you're gonna do the outro thingy. Thanks again, everybody.
Yeah. Alrighty. And to all you wonderful people in the chat and the presentation, we will definitely do this again, and we'll see you on the next one.
send him to outer space to find another race. I'm gonna send him to outer space to find another race.
Hello, boys! I'm back! Wow, it's happening! I said, what? Yeah! I said, what? I said, yeah! I said, what? I said, yeah! I said, no! I said, yeah! I said, what? I said, yeah! I said, what? I said, yeah! I said, what? I said, yeah! The building is on fire!
Don't ask questions. Don't ask questions. Don't ask questions.
After you. Oh, no, you first.
When you tell somebody something, it depends on what part of the United States you're standing in as to just how dumb you are.
Grandma, you can't just kick me out. I can too.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
If you were waiting for the opportune moment, that was it.